being there on the morning, exactly a century on, and standing where they stood and looking out onto the pale water as dawn was breaking was very cathartic, and it was very like a great realisation. Real people with real stories had stood there, and they were there.
We were there as the representatives for Queensland, and as such had an opportunity to lay a wreath on behalf of them at Lone Pine. And for the two that were involved and the whole tour group behind them, it was very moving and solemn to lay that wreath there and know that that was Queensland's official mark of commemoration for these soldiers.
It was such a personal service. They read stories about all of the some of the servicemen who were buried in the cemetery there as well, and just the wreath laying, and it was so quiet during the minute of silence, and then the enormity hit me, and it's all of these people fought here. These people didn't get to go home like we get to go home. So intense at Lone Pine.
The dawn service is quite interesting in that it's held below the Sphinx and almost on Anzac Cove, the beach itself. But after that, we had an opportunity to walk down onto the rocky shore of Anzac Cove and spend some time there. And I think that was an amazing morning, being able to sit down there, hear the waves rushing, feel the stones in your hand, and realise that these same waves that were rushing now were the waves that people potentially your age were washing up in as they tried to fight against these Turkish defenders as they came up the shores at Anzac Cove.
To sit on the beach in the peace and quiet and just look at the hills and look at everything surrounding, and realising that this time, exactly 100 years ago, there was setups of Australian soldiers digging trenches. It's just phenomenal to know that we're on the exact spot that they landed.
So to have a bugler on the tour was just a very special event. And she played our bugle at all of our services. And I guess one of the real special ones was when she was playing it down on Anzac Cove, and she was just standing there by herself, and you hear the sound of the water crashing onto the shore just behind her, and then her playing the bugle, and she played it perfectly. It was just quite an amazing experience. And there were actually a few Australians around at the time, and they were actually up on top of the hill, and they could hear her playing the bugle. And later that afternoon they came down and had a talk to us, and said they were crying because it was such an experience for them, because they just didn't expect it. They'd suddenly got off the bus and they just looked, and there was this student down there playing the bugle, and said they were touched very much by that. And I think anybody that saw that and heard that would have understood that as well. It was a very special occasion.